Life is not just a straight line, it is a circle, a cycle that repeats itself until you are brave enough to step outside of it. Many live their lives unconsciously, repeating patterns they have inherited from their parents, their environment, and their own past wounds. They wonder why the same suffering follows them again and again. It is because the unconscious is not transformed by avoidance. It is transformed only when it is faced. To break the cycle, one must step into the fire of awareness, not flee from it. Breaking the cycle is one of the greatest acts of courage a human being can achieve. We live much of our lives unaware of the hidden patterns that shape our choices, our relationships, and our very sense of identity. These patterns are not always obvious, they often linger beneath the surface, woven into the unconscious. They whisper into our decisions, they echo through our habits, and they silently dictate the shape of our destinies. Many people spend years, even lifetimes, moving in circles without realizing they are trapped. They feel as though fate has cursed them with the same repeated disappointments, the same betrayals, the same struggles. Yet, the truth is not that life has singled them out for suffering, it is that what is unconscious has not yet been brought to light. What remains hidden within you will rule you, until the day you turn and face it. Carl Jung once said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This statement carries with it an uncomfortable but liberating responsibility. If the cycles of disappointment and pain you face are not simply accidents, but reflections of your inner world seeking recognition, then you are not powerless. In fact, you stand at the threshold of freedom. The cycle is not an enemy designed to torment you, it is a messenger. Its repetition is its way of knocking at your door, demanding to be acknowledged. Every time you meet the same outcome, it is life asking, will you look deeper this time? Will you finally confront the hidden truth within you? To understand this, think about the way patterns emerge in relationships. A person may continually attract partners who neglect them, betray them, or fail to see their worth. At first, it seems like bad luck. But if the same scenario plays out again and again, something more profound is happening. It is as if the psyche is trying to replay the unresolved wound until you have the courage to see it clearly. Perhaps it is the reflection of a childhood experience, a buried belief about unworthiness, or a fear of abandonment. The unconscious does not rest until it is recognized, because recognition is the beginning of transformation. And until you look into that mirror, the cycle will repeat. Every cycle, no matter how destructive it feels, is held together by fear. Fear is the invisible glue that binds you to the familiar, even when the familiar is painful. You may hate the pattern you are caught in, yet the idea of breaking it can feel unbearable. Why? Because breaking the cycle means stepping into the unknown. The known, however toxic, feels safe because it is predictable. Fear whispers, better the pain you understand than the uncertainty you cannot control. Fear of change, fear of the unfamiliar, fear of losing the person you once believed yourself to be, these fears keep you circling in place. But freedom has always required courage. The path out of the cycle is not lit by comfort, it is lit by bravery. To break the cycle is to take a step into uncharted territory, to embrace the unfamiliar with trust that life will catch you when you leap. Ask yourself this: what is the fear that binds me here? Is it the fear of being alone? The fear of failure? The fear of rejection? To name the fear is to diminish its power, for the unknown becomes less threatening once you give it a name. Every act of naming is an act of reclaiming. It is the first crack in the chain that has held you. Once fear is spoken, it begins to lose its hold. Cycles also thrive on silence and denial. We inherit not just the gifts of our families and cultures but also their unhealed wounds. Trauma, neglect, and pain pass silently through generations when they remain unspoken. Children inherit the unfinished business of their parents, carrying burdens that were never truly theirs. Silence allows the wound to continue unchallenged, and denial disguises it in the cloak of normality. We convince ourselves that this is just how life is, or this is just who I am. And so the cycle lives on, fed by our refusal to confront it. Yet the moment you dare to speak it, you fracture the silence. When you name your pain, when you refuse to hide it, when you choose to live differently, you become the one who ends the repetition. You become the ancestor who breaks the chain, the one who says, "This will not continue with me." And in doing so, you not only free yourself, you free all those who will come after you. A child raised by someone who has faced their own shadows inherits not the wound but the strength. Healing does not stop with the individual, it ripples outward, changing the future of generations. But breaking the cycle is not only about awareness or courage, it demands responsibility. And this is where many falter. It is tempting to cling to blame, to point to the people who hurt us, to the circumstances that restricted us, to the injustices that scarred us. And there is truth in acknowledging the harm that has been done. But if blame becomes your permanent home, it becomes your prison. Blame locks you into the story of your wound, forcing you to replay it endlessly while believing others hold the key. Responsibility, on the other hand, is not about guilt. It is about power. To take responsibility is to recognize that while you did not choose what hurt you, you can choose what you do now. You may not be guilty of your suffering, but you are responsible for your healing. And when you step into that responsibility, the cycle loses its grip. You are no longer the victim caught in its circle, you are the author rewriting its ending. To break the cycle is to be reborn. We often think of death as the end of physical life, but there is another kind of death that is far more transformative, the death of the old self. Every time you shed a version of yourself that was bound by fear, silence, blame, and unconscious repetition, something new emerges in its place. This is the essence of transformation. It is not about destroying who you are, it is about allowing what no longer serves you to die, so that something truer, freer, and more alive can be born. Rebirth is never comfortable. It requires letting go of identities you have carried for years, perhaps for your entire life. It demands that you walk away from familiar roles, toxic attachments, and old narratives that once defined you. But in their absence, something extraordinary happens, space is created. Space for growth, for healing, for authenticity. And in this space, you discover a self you never knew existed, the self that was always waiting beneath the cycles. Think of a snake shedding its skin. The old skin is not evil, it served its purpose. But when it no longer fits, it must be released. If the snake refuses to shed, it cannot grow. In the same way, your cycles were not meaningless, they were teachers. But once their lesson has been learned, they must be released. To cling to them is to suffocate your own growth. To let them die is to live again. Breaking the cycle transforms not only your inner world but your outer one as well. When you step out of repetition, life itself begins to shift. Relationships change because you no longer accept the same patterns of neglect or harm. Choices expand because you no longer fear the unknown. Opportunities arise because you no longer sabotage them with unconscious beliefs. The world outside you mirrors the transformation within. And yet, do not expect perfection. Even as you break cycles, you may still stumble. You may still hear the whisper of old patterns calling you back. But the difference is that now you are aware. And awareness is the light that will guide you. Even if you falter, you will not fall as deeply as before. Even if you circle back, you will not circle endlessly. The cycle may tempt you, but it will no longer own you. To break the cycle is to live awake. It is to live aware. It is to live free. This is not an easy path, but it is the only one that leads to true transformation. You do not have to repeat what was handed down to you. You do not have to relive the same disappointments. You do not have to be chained by fear, silence, blame, or unconsciousness. You can choose differently. You can end what has gone on for generations. You can become the one who turns the circle into a path. And when you do, you will discover that breaking the cycle is not the end of your journey, it is the beginning of your true life. It is the moment you stop being ruled by the past and start creating the future. It is the moment you awaken to your power, your freedom, and your responsibility. The unconscious becomes conscious. Fear becomes courage. Silence becomes truth. Blame becomes authorship. Repetition becomes renewal. The cycle ends with you, and a new story begins.